Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular City Council meeting of the Rockport City Council for September the 12th, 2023. It is 6:30. We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You can have a seat. The first item on the agenda is citizens to be heard. At this time, comments limited to 3 minutes will be taken from the audience from persons who have signed the speaker's card located at the table in the back of the training room of the Service Center and delivered to the City Secretary before the meeting begins, or written comments received by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting. For purposes of this meeting, as the last meeting we had, which was last week, the subject matter is somewhat interrelated, so to differentiate between what you might hear on different subjects addressed by people who are here, we will allow that they be read or statements made at the time the agenda items are called this evening. For items that are not on the agenda, the City Council may not take any action or address anything related to them. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, Council can't discuss or take action on any items not been posted on the agenda. While civil public criticism is not prohibited, disorderly conduct or disturbance of the peace is prohibited by law shall be cause for the chair to terminate the offender's time to speak. I have 2 citizens to be heard on subjects not on the agenda. First, Mr. Doug Webb. If you'd come to the front, give us your name and address and make your statements. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Doug Webb, 130 Lamar Drive, and I'm an involved citizen. Honorable Mayor, City Council, City Manager, City Staff, Mr. Sergeant at Arms, and fellow citizens, I'm here to talk about something very personal and serious, so I may need a little extra time. A couple of weeks ago, I got a traffic ticket. I went to the county tax office, thought I'd take 15, 20 minutes there to get a license plate, took 40, 45 minutes. So I was late to my next appointment. So I'm driving down Church Street, and I get to Highway 35 North between Discount Auto and Wells Fargo. A lot of traffic. I see there was a gap in both lanes, and so I accelerated hard, turned into the left lane, skidded up near the car in front of me, look in the rearview mirror, and I have badly misjudged the speed that the following car was coming. I don't like to see wrecks, so I close my eyes. I put my neck against the back neck rest and brace for the collision, and it didn't happen. I thought, oh, cool, all is good. I start driving. Unbeknownst to me, lurking behind the car that I was seeing was a Rockport police officer. He has his lights blinking. I pull over, and I spend a lot of time on YouTube. There's a thing called Fourth Amendment audits, and it has hundreds of cases where people are pulled over by police officers. Some are just ignorant, uneducated. Some are badge heavy. And so I'm prepared for this event. The officer comes up to my window, and he instantly comes up and he says, I really am sorry, I do not remember the officer's name. He said, I'm Officer Jones, Rockport Police Department, and you made an illegal left turn. That completely took just jerked the rug completely out of me for any defense, so I gave him a mild, yes, sir. Then the worst thing happened. The officer's there talking to me, and the car that almost hit me in the rear had driven around the corner and gives me the na, 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 na. And the officer says, justice is served, and I said, sometimes. He took my paperwork, soon came back, and he said that it was unnecessary for me to give him my concealed handgun license, as it was already in the report that he got. And I told him, well, I just didn't want us to scare each other. He gave me a warning ticket. The officer was polite, efficient, and showed he had been educated on this citizens' rights. This is proof positive of training by the chief of police, and I wanted the city council to know of this. This training could possibly save the citizens thousands of dollars in lawsuits. I strongly suggest to everyone
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Tonight's the night that looks like y'all are going to adopt your budget. You're going to adopt your tax rate. It's going to go the way it's already going to go. But I've got some recommendations that I'd like to make to you. So I'd like for you to make some notes, if you can. When you adopt your budget tonight, it's being proposed to you tonight on fund balance. So all of the information that was presented in the budget workshops, all of those line items, they sort of disappear. And we know that the charter amendments changed the requirements of the city manager for financial transparency. And a lot of things have changed and a lot of things can improve still. So I'd like to see some policies in place where that budget that was presented during your budget workshops with the line items, the last one with the line items, not this fund balance budget. Any changes over a certain amount, I don't know what y'all want to call a fair amount, 25,000 or whatever, because we don't want to tie our hands on everything, but that come back to City Council in budget adjustments throughout the year. The county does that. It's super easy. It's once a month, and it just provides for full transparency. I'd like to suggest that those policies be enforced. I'd like to see monthly reports out on the website that include your expenditures, your payroll. This is standard at the city, at the county and at the navigation district. It also includes investments. And this is just makes it, the more transparency you can provide, the less questions there are, right? And the easier. So I'd like to see policies from council that require the city manager and the new financial director, welcome aboard, to put monthly reports on the website and bring all budget adjustments based not on tonight's budget, but on the one that was with all the line items. So I think she's calling that the preliminary budget. We've got some new names for what the budget is, and that's fine, but y'all can figure that out in your policies. I'd also like for you to pull agenda item 4 from the consent agenda because I have some constructive information to offer you there and some things that will help you all with transparency. I've been asking questions, and I think it's just a lot easier if we get the public record to be more transparent. And it'll make it easier on y'all, it's make it easier on us, it's gonna make it easier on the staff. And so I've got some recommendations, so I'm gonna ask my councilman to pull consent agenda item number 4 next for a short discussion. Thank you.
Our action on behalf of the council, we'll have a roll call to establish quorum. Ward 1. Here. Ward 2.
Here.
Ward 3.
Here.
Ward 4.
I'm here.
Mayor here. We do have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is consent agenda. Before we go into that, I have got one citizen who wants to address the council on number 4, Ms. Rutledge.
And I think my mic is off. I have a handout for you. It's real easy, and I think it'll explain what I'm going to talk about. And I showed it to Brad, Teresa. Thank you. If you could show it to them. Page 10 of the agenda packet is the capital improvement plan. And I've been asking for this for several meetings. and it's scanned in line. This was presented first on August the 1st and again on September the 3rd. And it's really the meat of our budget. This is how you're going to spend taxpayer money in a big way to protect our future. We can't read this. So all I'm asking is that that you all make a vote tonight, that these minutes not be accepted, that they be updated with the entire thing. I know it's on a big ledger sheet. I've seen it, but it's never been made available to the public. And it's not made available before you all are going to adopt it as the major piece of our budget. So nobody knows what capital improvement projects are in there because you can't read it. You just can't read it. And that's in the minutes. So the other thing is a really meaty meeting was September 3rd. And that was the meeting where you had a special meeting. And you had this agenda item talks about all the minutes for the budget and the tax rate. The handouts weren't made available on August 1st. That meeting wasn't recorded on August the 1st. And the September 3rd meeting, a lot of handouts were talked about. But there was really kind of talked about in like a nondescript language so that the public, general public that wouldn't understand, even I had a hard time. I couldn't understand what y'all were talking about. And those minutes are not included tonight. So you're going to adopt a budget tonight. You're being asked to adopt a budget without the public having ever seen that information. That is the meat of your budget. That it supports your utility rate increases, that supports your capital improvement, general fund and utility capital improvement budgets. We haven't seen the information. So I recommend in the future that all meeting minutes be included and all of the information just be transparent, and then we have less questions, right? Less frustration. So please pull these, please pull item 4. Please ask that these minutes be updated with just scan in all your handouts. That's all, to the website. So the permanent record is complete for the public to see. Thank you.
All consent agenda items listed are considered to be routine by the City Council be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Does anyone wish to have that item removed, or any item removed from the consent agenda?
I'll pull item 4, Mayor.
Okay. And considering item 5 through 11, are there any others you wish to have removed?
Make a motion to approve consent agenda items 5 through 11 as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not. Call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Consent agenda item number 4 is called. Questions? Council.
Mayor, Mrs. Rutledge had showed me her printout of that handout of the minutes, and it is, the CIP funds is kind of unlegible when you print it out. It is a little fuzzy and when I'm zooming in on it here on the deal. So if we could maybe try to, yes ma'am.
Since I am responsible for the minutes and the other documentation for the city record, those are handouts that are given at the meeting that actually are not official documents. I do the public a favor by including them. They are not an official record. They were a handout. Until something is signed by the mayor, it becomes an official record. So I'm doing the public a favor by including those. When you zoom in on the screen, like at your computer, you can make it as big as you want and you can read it. You can call the city secretary's office or not call, you can email me and make a public information request for that document. On the website as well. It goes into the record of our agenda packets and it stays there. That document will stay in our agenda files as a permanent record because I have included it in those minutes. So it stays there. Trying to incorporate an 11 by 17 page into an official document that is this way gives everyone nightmares, even our scanning company. When you go to print something, it's gonna stop printing. If you're trying to research records, it's gonna pick up every little minute thing on there. And so it's hard to research findings like that. There's a reason it's done like that, through 25 years of recording minutes. And like I said, it's readily available. Just have to do a public information request and ask for it. And you can Zoom if you try, you can Zoom on the website and make it as big as you want to.
So with just having potential, just a little bit more consideration for the people maybe having this issue, can handouts the same as we are provided, you know, a handful of them be distributed at the start of the meeting for review?
They
I mean,
can.
it wouldn't have to be more than, you know, a few
They
sheets,
can,
but.
most of the time in budget workshops, these are working documents.
Mhm.
And until the council makes a decision or comes to a consensus on something, they really aren't public information. They are working documents.
But is there any
And that's how
difference?
the public gets misrepresentation. When a working document gets out in someone's hands and they quote things from there, and then that's not what officially adopted, and a year later, this working document shows up and said, well, y'all decided this. No, that was a working document. So we're very careful as records keepers, and stewards of records, what we release until it has been adopted.
I understand the necessity of precaution, especially with any record that's within still working status. My thing is I don't feel like there's much difference between them obtaining it from the minutes within the agenda packet or it being distributed for clear visualization. You can always input a note on that document that you're distributing that this is not an official record, this is a working document for review.
And we can do our best to do that. But if you remember the last couple of budget workshop sessions, we were down to the wire making changes.
Yes.
And there wasn't enough time.
I think the request is moving forward, we can just implement just a little bit more time allotted to something like that to give the public a little bit more requested transparency. Okay.
Could those, not necessarily in the minutes, but could we upload them to the website somewhere under the?
So that's what she's trying to say, is they are not part of the official minutes. She includes them as a courtesy, so that anyone folding through them can see what was handed out. Again, we don't make the handouts available because they do change our
They change.
documents.
It-
She could not include them and still be perfectly legal within the minutes. Now, they are on the website as the minutes. Again, if anybody wants an 11/17 copy or an emailed copy, they just call up the office and someone will send it out to them. It is a public document, even though it's a working document. But we have an opportunity to put draft on it or something like that. But it is available.
And we have to track. I mean, like she said, we really can't just call. Well, if you call and ask, then I'll say, please send me an email, because we have to track public information.
Would it be, in order to, not necessarily forego that process or sidestep it, but some of these working documents that we did have during the workshop, can we upload those to the?
So like our CIP is an official part of the budget. It's gonna be in the budget as adopted. I'm not sure what other documents we're talking about, but the CIP
The CIP one, it's in the budget, so.
part of the budget. It's adopted every year with the budget.
Okay.
Minor changes.
Any further questions?
May I ask a question? There was Ms. Rutledge made a comment about some minutes missing. Make sure that all minutes are on. I did not understand that. As I know, as tonight, we're caught up with everything. Did I understand something wrong?
I believe she said September 3rd, but I don't recall a meeting on September 3rd.
Further questions on this issue? If not, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adopt item 4 as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not a call for a vote. Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. It is 6:50, and we're going to enter a public hearing, conduct a public hearing, consider a request for a conditional use permit to bring the existing RV park into compliance with current city codes to remodel existing features in the RV park on property located at 1331 State Highway 188, also known as Lot 1R and 2, Coastal Paradise Subdivision, 17.989 acres, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas.
Hello, council members, mayor. I'm Brandon Amkin. I'm representing the ownership of this property. I don't know, does it get presented before, and then I answer questions, or do I need to present it? I'm not real sure what we need to do here.
Do you want to come and give them a summary, Carrie, of what we're looking at, and then if you have any questions of the owner, you're welcome to ask. I'll come back.
So the request for the CUP is to bring the current RV park into compliance. It's been there, it was there when we annexed them. So it is legal, non-conforming. They want to do some upgrades in the park. There'll be less spaces, more goodies, and bigger spaces for the folks there, but you can't modify legal non-conforming use. So they want the CUP so they can do the upgrades to the park.
I apologize, I could have done that.
Oh, it's okay.
I apologize. So basically what we're doing is, I think we have 165 units now. We're reducing it down to 155 units. We're changing the entrance to accommodate more of a stacking to where you're getting them off the highway when they're pulling in. We're changing some of the drainage a little bit to make it a positive flow off of there. We're going to put new fencing in. We're actually going to add another gate that comes off of Mundine to ease some of the traffic coming in and out of it. But we're going to actually demo the existing pool, put a bigger pool and lazy river in it. All of that has to be permitted after the CUP process.
Okay.
So that's why we're here.
Anyone else want to address this issue? All right. Thank you very much.
You bet.
No one else wishes to. We'll close the public hearing at 6:53, and we're back in regular session. Item number 13 on the agenda, deliberate and act on first reading of an ordinance granting a conditional use permit for the purpose of bringing the existing RV park into compliance with current city codes and to remodel existing features in the RV park on property located at 1331 State Highway 188, also known as Lot 1R and 2, Coastal Paradise Subdivision, 17.989 acres, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, subject to compliance with the conditions stipulated within the ordinance as well as those stipulated in the City of Rockport Code of Ordinances, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability and providing an effective date. Council? Questions?
I applaud y'all for going through the process. Looking through the plan sheets and everything, it's difficult to take spots away and maintain your profitability. But it looks like the amenities that you're adding are going to be pretty nice for that park, and it's a very nice park. So I applaud y'all for trying to come into compliance with the city's process, I guess. And so just thank y'all for that.
Mayor, the only thing I'd add is I did attend the P&Z meeting. As it states in the agenda memo, it was unanimously supported, and there were to my knowledge, there was no one at the P&Z that was opposed to this change. This also adds, I believe, another egress route for that RV. So yeah, I'll echo Councilman Vendrette's sentiment that it's a good plan, and good luck continuing to be a good steward of our community.
We appreciate you. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve item 13 as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further question or debate? If not, we'll call for a vote. Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
Mayor, aye. It's unanimous. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda, item number 14, discussion, proposal, and possible future action regarding the addition of a school zone to the area around ABC Learning Center located at 1422 East Cedar Street, and the addition of a four-way stop at the intersections next to the facility. Chief?
Council, we've had a conversation, and Councilman Brundrett, some citizens have approached you about the, it's primarily there's on Patterson and then on Lady Claire, the north-south streets, primarily on Lady Claire that run alongside of ABC Learning Center. Reserved using the word complaint, but certainly some concerns about traffic going along here during the school day, and we, I think, talked about school zones, school zones, but I don't think that it qualifies given the fact that it is a more of a preschool. And so we talked about perhaps doing four-way stop signs right there, and I talked with streets. That would be easy. It's a simple ordinance addition. I would suggest let me do a traffic study. We have the equipment to do that, to see what the volume of traffic is. I want to know how many cars are actually traveling and what those actual speeds are. That's merely a suggestion. Again, I don't think it's going to upset the traffic patterns too significantly if we do put a four-way stop sign up there. Again, it's not a highly congested area. What I would offer, though, is that those stop signs impact traffic 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, when that school or when the ABC Learning Center is in session only some of the hours of the day, some of the days of the week, some of the months of the year. What that traffic study will show me, of course, is the volume of traffic at different times of the day. It'll show me how fast the traffic is going, and I can bring back to you a more educated solution, whether that's the right move or not. The piece of equipment that we use to do that is right now in another area of town doing the same thing. Someone else has said, hey, we need a stop sign here, we need a reduced speed limit here, and how we do that is we study it. I've got another one ahead of this one, but I can defer that one, and in probably a week to 2 weeks, I can put the traffic equipment in this area and get a good calibration of that. Again, that's my suggestion. If, in y'all's opinion, you guys are the ones that make the ordinances, if you believe that based on the complaints or based on the concerns that you're getting, we need to go ahead and move on that and put a stop sign up, it's not a hard ordinance to do.
All right, questions?
It came to, you know, they're from Linden to 35 on Patton and Lady Claire. There's not a stop sign from,
it's a straight shot.
From Linden
Correct.
to 35. So we're talking 8, 10 blocks, whatever it may be, but it's a straight shot, and the traffic coming in and out of the hotel, the Holiday Inn right there, along with the ABC school. And thank you for doing the research on the learning center versus, you know, school. And I was wondering about that, like Montessori schools. I understand that that's not considered a school, so maybe the four-way or another stop sign somewhere on those two streets would help with the speed going around there and the traffic. And I'm all for just a traffic study to give us the true data, because other than that, we're just somebody with an opinion.
I think that's the prudent measure right now, but even with that, you still deal with perceptions. And if you are, you know, for me to have these numbers in front of me does little for the parent who is dropping their kid off or picking their kid up. And when they see a car, and in our mind's eye, if I see it coming this way, it doesn't look going so fast. When I see it going that way, it looks like it's going a lot faster than it is. And that perception is their reality. And so even with that traffic study, if there's a high volume of cars that are coming through at the full 30 miles an hour when a parent is dropping off or picking their child up, while the vehicles may not be speeding, again, I would bring back to you and say this may be a way to it's not necessarily slowing the traffic down below what the speed limit is, but it forces them to stop, and that will bring that perception some comfort and may make it a safer area. And so, again, I think that's the most prudent thing to do, so we can look at it, see what the real issue is, and then we focus on dealing with the perceptions that those folks are facing.
Is this a traffic counter, or would it be the radar?
It does both.
Both.
And it's better than the trailer that we still have. It actually hangs on a pole. It's a gray box.
Okay.
I would, Councilman Hatman is gonna be she's driving by it probably every day, going home and stuff, and no idea that it's there. So it's a good piece of equipment,
Okay.
because it does see how fast cars are going, the numbers of vehicles, and it gives me that count out to know what time of day they're coming through, what day of the week, and whether they're going that way or coming this way. It's a great piece of equipment, and in fact, I'm looking at a way, and I may use some seizure funds or something to get another one so that I don't have to put stuff in line, get them in a queue. I could bring you an answer quicker if it wasn't already out deployed somewhere.
Understood.
It's a great piece of equipment.
It doesn't have a display sign showing speed.
Does not.
I might have flawed some results at a younger day in my life.
There's great videos of people
Younger,
running to see if they can get a register on it.
Yeah, just.
And those
to
serve
see-
a great purpose, they do, but the more accurate study is if the drivers don't know that their speed's being monitored. And of course, it's not I want to be clear, it's not we don't write tickets off of it at all. It just gives me that traffic information so I can bring back hard data
Okay.
to make a data-driven decision. Correct.
I'll just add, I had a youngster that attended school there, and so spent every day for years in and out of there. It is different than our other schools. The kids aren't walking from the neighborhood to that school or walking home unaccompanied. You know, the parent has to go in or the guardian has to go in, obtain the child, come out, but you're still backing in and out. I mean, there's a lot of movement, you know, so I know your guys are spread thin, but, you know, it may just be during those high volume times, a presence may solve part of that
I agree.
challenge. So I agree with the study. Let's get us some more accurate data, and really kind of defer to Brad, Councilman Frederick, because you're gonna feel the good, bad, or indifferent complaints on that one, so.
Anyone else?
Yeah, no, I support the study.
Okay, I'll get that underway. Again, it may be a couple of weeks, but as soon as I get it underway and I have hard data to bring back, we'll look at it again.
All right, thanks, Chief.
Appreciate it, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 15, deliberate and act to adopt on first and only reading an ordinance for the city of Rockport adopting a budget, appropriating resources for fiscal year 2023-2024, beginning October 1st, 2023, and ending September 30th, 2024, in accordance with existing statutory requirements, repealing all conflicting ordinances, containing a severability clause, and providing for an effective date. I have one sheet with a request to speak. Ms. Rutledge.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Christy Rutledge, 1411 Dana Drive. I wish I could hear his presentation first, because what I'm gonna say tonight is gonna be based on an email that I sent my city councilman. I've had to make a lot of educated guesses, and I've had to go back and look at the 2022 strategic plan and the 22-23 budget and the 23-24 proposed capital improvement plan, because this agenda item, to try to figure out what y'all are doing here, this agenda item is approving the City of Rockport annual budget and capital improvement program for the fiscal year beginning October 1st. And I've studied your capital improvement plan, and I've compared it to what's already adopted and attached to the ARP money, which is your wastewater treatment plant and some water projects. And I have a lot of questions, and I've been asking them every week, but I'll just go ahead and get them out here on the record. And what I'm really hoping for is that before you adopt the budget tonight, maybe you can follow up and you can clarify my questions. Because I do think it's real important to have a lot of transparency with your citizens, because you're spending our money. So the TDM money, the ARP money, is designated for infrastructure, water, wastewater, sewer. It also could aid in tourism, but last year it was designated for the wastewater treatment plant. And what I see on this handout that I was just asking for, that you can't read in the minutes, is that the downtown Austin Street rebuild has been added into the 22-23 this year budget, this year, before October 1st. And that was not funded last year. So I assume that whatever projects were delayed, defunded, deferred, That's all going to fall into general fund, and it's moving around now in your capital improvement budget. So I'm just going to give you some observations that I have, and hopefully you can answer some questions. First of all, where is the ARP money designated? Where is that money going to be spent? Second of all, where is the 2007 bond money? Because it looks like it's being spent now on Concho Street. Concho Street was paid for with the 2020 tax notes. Is it even legal to redesignate that project? The downtown water line replacements look like they're being funded somehow. It looks like the utility CIP has changed significantly. It's got some questionable things in here and some things that have never been discussed. Streets and drainage, so I'm assuming that is downtown or part of it. The Rockport Country Club sediment removal has been defunded. The wastewater treatment plant has been defunded. $14 million in debt is proposed. We've never heard about for what. We don't know where these sources of funding are. There's been no discussion at all about a couple of the projects, Savino, so I don't know that those are real projects. So please be transparent about what we're paying for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rutledge. Council, questions on item number 15?
Yeah, I
Does Mr.
speak
Shore
first
have
here.
I'm sorry, does
Can I
Mr. Shore have a presentation?
Yes.
Should we?
Andrea?
You want to do your presentation first? I'm sorry.
She said, do we want to hear the presentation first?
Fine.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, good evening. As we were saying, the first and only reading of the ordinance for the adopting the budget for fiscal year 2023-2024. Public hearing of that was held here on September 5th. If I can point you to Exhibit A of the attached, that is the all funds. So we're looking at a $55,780,051 total budget. Of that, about $14 million is general fund, about $14 million is general fund, and about $15 million is the utility wastewater fund, and gas is about $3.3 million of that. The overall budget is less by about $9 million from that approved last year, driven largely to a decrease in budget from the general fund CIP. And that's pretty much it. We're just asking to approve that, please.
I would like to point out that going through the budget, preparing for this council meeting, I have been through this paperwork, and I believe that every question that could be asked about the expenditure of funds and how it's expended and what place it is expended and what the capital improvement funds are and where the money was spent is answered in these documents, which had to be posted 72 hours before this meeting. And I have no questions regarding what you have presented here.
I just wanted to make a comment again that we did go over a couple of her, Mrs. Rutledge's questions in her comments last council meeting. Number one, the wastewater plant. I'm not sure if Ms. Schroner wants to go over that again. On top of that, I also want to again clarify that the Rockport Country Club was not defunded. Their money was used during sediment cleaning over their project that they did with the pipe that we had put in. So I just wanted to clarify that again. And Ms. Schroner, if you want to go over again, that's up to you, but we did answer several of those questions in the last council meeting, and those were included in the minutes as I read the packet this last weekend.
Thank you.
That's up to y'all. I'll be happy to go over it again, or, again, we answered all of these questions at the last meeting. So it's entirely up to y'all. I'll do whatever you please. Oh, it's in the minute.
I think I just have one question. It's just in comparison of the original proposed and then the one most recently provided. And I know that you guys did reduce, we asked you guys to come back with budget cuts, and it was reduced by $229,000 approximately. But I noticed that a lot of the reduction came from the vehicles and equipment replacement. It was originally proposed at $619, and it's now currently reduced to $75, but we reallocated some of the difference of the 544 and the 229 to other expenditures that didn't have increases in the originally proposed budget. So I just wanted, and I know this is a late question I could have asked earlier, I just did not have the time as I am a busy woman too. So that would be my only concern is, can you provide an explanation of why we moved some of those funds, like 250 to sanitation and 257 to utility? Just so if anyone else notices those transitions, they're explained today.
Vehicle replacement fund, those transfers from the utility fund and the general fund and other funds were cut due to overall budget cuts. We had to cut those in order to try to balance the budget. So
The
it's
biggest factor in that decision was with, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, in the 2020 budget, we allocated a lot of money for new vehicles. And so it would have been unused money to buy new vehicles. We were budgeting for new vehicles that we did not need because we'd just gotten an influx of new ones. Does that make sense? Am I saying that right? Now, as to where it was put, we used part of it as a reduction, and to your point, we put some in the general fund, some in the utility fund. One of the biggest factors was an increase in insurance, which we talked about, which we didn't have all of our re-rates at the time that you received your initial budget. So we included all of our insurance re-rates, not just health, but also property. Windstorm insurance, we had estimated that at $800,000. It came in at,
Right at
is $1 million.
Yeah.
so there's 200,000 extra right there that we had to allocate some of that vehicle expenditure to. I would say the bulk of it went towards insurance. If there was $100 here, $100 there, I can't tell you, but those were where the bulk of it was. Again, just the windstorm insurance coming in at $200,000, the higher, that chewed up the bulk of it.
Okay. Other questions? If there are no other questions, do I have a motion?
Move to approve item 15 as presented.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further question? Not, we'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye, it's unanimous, approved. Item number 16, deliberate and act on second final reading of an ordinance of the city of Rockport approving the assessment and renditions of the 2023 taxable property as submitted by the appraisal district, levying a tax rate for $100 valuation for the city of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, for the tax year 2023 of 0.213583 for the purposes of maintenance and operation, and 0.146495 for the payment of principal and interest on the debt of the city, that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.360078, which is effectively an 11.26% increase to the tax rate, providing for a lien on all real and personal property to secure payment of taxes due thereon, containing a severability clause, repealing all ordinances and parts thereof in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
No
I
change.
have one person wanting to address this particular item, Ms. Rutledge.
Christy Rutledge, 1411 Dana Drive. I'm opposed to your tax rate. I know you're going to approve it tonight, but I want to put on the record why I'm opposed to it, because you have not been transparent about what you're taxing us for. You've changed a lot of the capital improvement projects. That handout was never made available to us. It's not going to be made available or legible in the city minutes. A lot of people opposed the utility rate increases necessary for the capital improvement project. And all of that plan, all of that builds into our tax rate. I see a lot of money moving around, and for 11.26% increase in property taxation, I don't see that we're getting any benefit for it. I don't see that the citizens of Rockport are getting, or the taxpayers are getting any benefit. And if we are getting any benefit, you haven't discussed it in a public meeting. I don't know what you're saying in private to each other, because you're obviously talking about this stuff that I'm asking about without saying it on the public record. I get it, I understand. So go ahead and move forward, but I'm opposed to it, and that's why, because you haven't been transparent. So hopefully you'll do better next year.
Thank you, Ms. Rutledge. Any further question on item number 16? Go ahead.
Just to say, this is the second reading and there's no change.
Okay. Do I have a question or any concern?
I just have a few things that I want to discuss. I know that originally we were looking at being under, with the proposed rate, we wanted to capture the idea of starting high so that we could potentially move this low once we got the certified appraisal rolls in. I know we were already looking at being 830 plus under. I just kind of want to maybe open it up for discussion on considering a even lower rate, only because this is going to be an increase in the tax bill to the taxpayers. We have an increased appraisal rate, so it doesn't matter if we lower. If they're still likely, unless they're sitting at our estimated rate of 300 and what was it? 304. You know, anything above that, they may potentially have an increase in their tax bill. So I didn't know if we wanted to open it up to see. I know originally it was suggested that we start high with the idea of potentially going a little bit lower.
So you said, I'm sorry, that we were 800 under,
Yeah,
but we were 800 over. That's where we started. We were started by being 800,000 over our budget and taking from reserves.
Yeah, so on the consolidated resources versus expenditure summary, the originally proposed was the rate of the 0.30078, which would put us under, because our expenditures would be over our resources at 380 plus thousand. So if we were already anticipating that, couldn't we welcome the idea of discussion to further reduce the tax rate? If we were already looking at that, there's a lot of things that can be considered over the next budget year that would allow you to reassume that.
I'm very sorry. Could you clarify that?
In the workshop, we were provided the consolidated resources versus expenditure summary. That if we adopted the unused increment with sales tax increase, this was prior to the certified appraisal rolls coming in, that we would be under 830,427 short.
Right?
Okay, so you provided us a handout with the appraisal rolls included that gave us an updated undervalue still with the unused increment with sales tax increase of 449,352. If we were already, when we sat here and did our original proposal, it was suggested to us we start high so that we could potentially, when these certified rolls came in and budget cuts were made, move that tax rate down. We were already looking at being under 830 plus thousand. We could still potentially today move that tax rate down a little bit, still sitting at the same 800 plus that we were going to be over, correct?
Well, so when we, maybe I'm the one that's not understanding, but when we started our budget workshops, we used our projected estimates from last year. We were 800,000 in the hole, right? And so when we got our estimated appraisals, if we picked last year's tax rate, we would have been 800,000 in the hole. We have made cuts and moved forward with the tax rate that you guys considered, and I think that with our certified rolls, we were only about 300,000 in the hole. So we went from 8 to 3. Last year's numbers, appraisal numbers, to this year's new appraisal numbers took us from 8 to 3. Plus the cuts we made to balance at the 3. So if you go to a lower tax rate, we will need to either pull more from reserves or cut the budget more.
So-
Have I
Yeah.
captured what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay,
But last year's taxable rate was 273,658. You're looking at 11.33% increase from 2022 at the estimated 304,659. So will that offset anything?
okay, just say it again because I didn't hear you.
And 2022, the taxable rate was sitting at 273,658. Today, it came at, the proposed was 304,659, which is an 11.3% increase from 2022. Will that, if we lower that rate, will it offset any of that increase in our deficit?
So that increase amounted to $240,000 added to our budget. The difference in last year's taxable value and this year's taxable value, what comes into the city is $243,085. So part of that offset our 300,000 in the hole, if I'm understanding correctly. You're welcome, you can lower the rate, absolutely.
Well, I guess just my points to be made are the fact that, a lot of the discussion that occurred in the workshop, we talked about, we all are very aware that we have to play catch up, that, our reserves are low. I just don't want this at the taxpayer's expense. And they're already looking at increased appraisal rates. So if anything, we could try to offset that burden on them. That is my priority. I would just want all of the departments throughout this next budget year to be very conservative. We discussed allowing those conservative measures to be regulated through the departments. Those potential overages could go back into our general reserves.
And you are absolutely correct, and everybody has been instructed to be as conservative as possible. I want them to have the money for the things that they need. I don't want them to spend money just because it's there. We have to build up our reserves. That is a priority. We cannot continue on in the way that we have been going. So you're correct. Everybody has to be conservative. But I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we have to put the money there that they potentially gonna need. If there's leftover, they're not gonna be penalized for having leftovers. They're gonna be lauded for doing their job with less money. So yes, anything left over at the end of the year will go back into the reserves. Everything that is needed is budgeted this year. If we want to cut the budget more to lower the tax rate, we're welcome to do that. And that will be at y'all's discretion.
According to the information statement that we have that came with this, and I did ended at the effective date and so forth, tax rate will effectively be raised by 12.82% and will raise taxes for maintenance and operations on a $100,000 home by approximately negative $6.93. So we're not taking high advantage of the taxpayers.
We're not, and if we go to some of the lower rates, the way that it's required to be split out, our M&O will be reduced to lower than we had last year, and our INS would be increased. So if we want to roll back the rate, we need to be cognizant that we are going to have less operating money than we have last year if we choose the no new revenue rate, correct?
Correct.
Or the I'm sorry to put you on the spot like
No,
that.
de minimis is what you're getting at.
The de minimis,
Yes.
if we choose the de minimis, the lower rate, our operating funds actually will be reduced to less than we have last year. We don't make those numbers. Those numbers are given to us. We have a selection of 4 items, and then if we want to do a buy down, we have another 4. But when we pick that buy down, those are our 4. And how they're broken out is not our choice. I don't get to say we only need to pay $100,000 to debt, so take all the rest to operating. I don't get to say that. That is given to us by the appraisal district. So if we want to lower the tax rate, we have 3 lower options, right? And some of those options are detrimental to our operations because they actually give us less money.
Other questions?
Yeah, I know it was mentioned as well, like you guys were talking about the 180-day reserve, and it was stated that just one good development coming in could put us right back and fluff that reserve back up where it needs to be. Is that realistic, something we can capture in the next fiscal year?
So what we're talking about, developer contributions, that has to be negotiated and that has to be agreed upon. So a developer coming in wanting to do good for the community would probably be willing to make a donation to the city, probably to help our general fund out. Are they gonna put us at $7 million? Are they gonna give us $3 million? Probably not. Are they gonna give us $500,000? Probably.
And at that point, we're betting on a development that doesn't
I just-
exist at this
yeah.
point. So,
I just
Right.
want the shift to occur where we're taking that burden off.
If we can, it will. I mean, we're gonna take every opportunity to bolster our reserves, but we have to be realistic with what we have, and we can't be speculative on who may or may not give us money or what we may or may
No, I
not need.
understand that.
I'll just, Vanessa, for me, this will be your true test. This will be your first full fiscal year with us, working with your staff and working with them to apply the policy that I think we've been clear that we want to have. I do want to make sure it's clear on the maintenance side of it. We do want them to save money where they can, but maintenance dollars, I'm looking at you, Mr. Donahoe, maintenance dollars.
Spend your maintenance
Those are
dollars.
maintenance dollars that need to be spent, and any of those projects, but everything else we can definitely roll back as needed. And I think y'all done a great job. I think staff worked hard with us to develop out this budget, to develop out the tax rate. It's not perfect. It is hurt. I mentioned this before, it's real dollars, it's real lives that we're working with, but until we can adjust some of the impact fees, adjust some of these other things, I mean, we're clawing our way out of a hole, but we really aren't clawing at this point. We're treading water because we're still not building. So I want to trust that the leadership team that we've put together is gonna do the things that we've asked them to do and willing to, put some of my own, I guess, street cred, if you will, by voting for a tax rate that nobody wants. I mean, nobody wants to do this. So I have no recommendations for change at this point. We are way down the line and have had plenty of opportunity to discuss this.
We have looked at all the possibilities we could possibly see. We've talked about new development and all sorts of things, but to base a budget on something that we don't know for sure is going to happen is foolish, and we can't do that. And I don't know where else we go. Other questions?
Just to say, I do appreciate your time and all the efforts you did and the budget cuts you made. And we are trending right in the right direction. So I just want to, I'm not, I basically wanted to toss around the idea of the potential because it was previously discussed. But I do support the fact that you are working us in the right direction. Just want to be clear that, the expectations are, just as they are for you to be fiscally conservative through the budget year so that we can do better at producing a greater result at the end of next budget year.
Sure. Also, if you wouldn't mind, I'll just point y'all back to my first budget letter. Maybe reread that, and that will kind of give you a picture of what kind of hole we are starting in, that we're treading water in. So go back and read that and see what those issues are. We found one more little Easter egg since then. on the insurance for the old city hall, which we've discussed as well. But I think that gives you all a better picture of where we started from, because we didn't start from last year's number.
Just, if I could, Mayor, just a little brief history. Mayor Pro Tem Hatman and myself were on council in 21 when we adopted a no new revenue rate. And that was a difficult process, but we were able to do it then. And since then, we have decreased the rate.
The number.
Not much, but it hasn't kept up with the appraisal rate, but not much I can do about that. But so we're trending downwards on our tax rates, and maybe someday we can get caught up and see some true tax savings to everyone. But as far as what we have today, I don't see that we can lower the rate much more, if at all, and not keep digging ourselves in a hole, unfortunately. And that being said, I was real happy with it. We were able to do it in 21, but I just don't want to keep digging ourselves in a hole.
Anyone else?
Me, please. Sorry, kind of hard. I just wanted to make kind of the same of Councilman Brundrett there. So obviously, we were able to do that in the past, but we are digging out of a hole. And for me, I don't want to take away the services that we provide to our city residents and even our county at the same time, because we try to work with each other. I appreciate your comments, Stephanie. I just don't see where we can lower this rate this year without having future problems and not being able to have that money in our budget and even in our reserves to make sure that we can do our services the way that we need to. So I just wanted to make that comment in the public meeting tonight. Thank you.
So Mayor, I'll make the motion to accept item 16 as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further question or debate? If not, we'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Passes unanimously. All right, item number 17. Deliberate and act to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the 2023-2024 annual budget and capital improvement plan. Yes, sir.
Thank you. This is just to ratify the tax rate. It says adoption of a budget that will require raising more revenue from property taxes than in previous years requires a separate vote of the governing body to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the budget. So we ask for you to ratify, please.
Thank you. Ms. Rutledge, you asked to speak on this item also.
Christy Rutledge, 1411 Dana Drive. This agenda item is to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the 23-24 annual budget and capital improvement plan. And I just want to state again that the capital improvement plan is not clear. What is in your budget included in your packet tonight, in the agenda packet for the public tonight, does not match the handout that was given to City Council on September the 3rd. That's the actual list of projects. So all we can go on is what's in here. And I've never heard these discussed in a public meeting, that they would come from general property taxes. So I just want to go ahead and put them on the record. Revenues is grant proceeds of $4.18 million. I have no idea that the city had a grant worth $4.18 million. What is that? Is that a combination of some other funds, ARP funds, 2007 bond funds, City Hall proceeds from the insurance? Nobody knows. It's just a general grant proceeds with no definition, never discussed in a public meeting. So here's some of the things that couldn't live without and lower our tax rate, because I think a penny on the tax rate is about $250,000, something like that. I don't know. That's just a guess. So we couldn't live without a Holly and Kluge Trail rehabilitation, $500,000 in the general fund capital improvement budget. Who knows what that is? Never heard it discussed in a public meeting. Sabinal retention pond and fiber, $1.72 million. Who knows what that is? I've never heard it discussed in a public meeting. It doesn't match what's in the handout, because the handout says downtown Austin Street is getting funded rehab for $3.5 million, but that's not in your budget that's in the agenda packet. The other things that we're gonna get is a downtown visitors center and restroom, so it's a whole park. That was gonna be funded with hot tax, $500,000. I'm not saying I'm opposed to these projects, but they've never been presented as a property tax lien. So you're putting a lien on my property and everybody else's property, it says so in your resolution tonight, for projects that have never been disclosed in a public meeting with your citizens. That's all I'm asking, is for transparency. I hope next year that you'll do better. I hope that you'll go ahead and get that ledger sheet put up on the website so everybody knows what you've just voted on. Y'all have talked about it, obviously, off the record, and we've never heard about it in a public meeting, and I think that's unfortunate, and that just goes to speak to our frustration. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions, council? If there are no questions, do I have a motion?
Oh, wait, I just have a comment. Sorry.
Yes.
The capital, and Mrs. Stronner and a couple of the council members there, we've been talking about the capital improvement projects, and I know at least for the last 3 years, we've had public meetings stating what we would like to do. We might have added new ones or not have done any of these projects, or a few of them at least. I guess I should probably correct myself there. But we have had public meetings in the past about these capital improvement projects, and they've just been in the queue for many years due to not having the funds to actually get those items done, is what is happening here. So hopefully, you know, us building our reserve and making sure that we do right by our budget in the future, we can start getting these projects done that actually do need to be done in our community.
I'd like to add to that, you guys were in the meeting where we talked about there's no need for us to start scheduling the capital improvement projects until we finish spending the grant funds and the unspent bond proceeds. We do not have the money. We have not had the money for the capital improvement projects. You will have to take out debt to fund those, or you will have to build out a fund. I know everybody here was in that discussion. All of these unfunded, unspent bond projects need to be completed first before we move to the capital improvement plan that was approved 5 years ago, or however long ago you guys got that. It hasn't changed. It's still the same.
To try to stay on track for this agenda item, one, I want to thank you, Mayor, for allowing the opportunity for our citizens to provide comment. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's accurate, nor is an accusation of any conversation that is occurring outside of the public meeting. Staff is able to send us documents and allow us to prepare for meetings, but that doesn't mean that we're having conversations. So I know we shouldn't be responding to things that are said, but we kind of got hammered a few times over and over, but that's okay. I'm glad that we've had the opportunity for the public to provide comment, and thank you for that. I've got nothing else to add on item 17.
I'll second that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion on item 17 as presented.
Have a motion, to have a second? Have a motion, and a second. Any further question or debate? If not, we'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. It's unanimous. Passes. Item number 18, city manager reports.
We're starting the chlorination burnout this week, I think. So when you get calls about the chlorine in the water, it's there. But it's safe levels. We're just switching from sanitation types for a little bit. So we do it every year. Everything's fine. The rake replacement at the wastewater treatment plant should have started on the 11th, which I guess was yesterday. You guys funded that earlier in the year, so you'll see work out there. On the Orleans Street, drainage project, I know it's more than Orleans Street, that's just what we identified as, I guess I should call it the GLO project. You're all aware that we found latent defects from the previous contractor, so we're working through those, through the appropriate methods to get those, taken care of. It will slow down the project significantly, but, I think we stick with our philosophy that we would rather have it right than now. So, we're gonna work through the appropriate process on that. Sorry, Brad. Concho Street, 1 box left and a hump in the road, and we will be done with that. They are going across 35 right now, so that's a 4-week process potentially. So there might be shutdowns there on Business 35 for 4 weeks, so. Yeah, there is a detour. I took it today. So it's not gonna be pleasant, but it will be done. And then finally, we should be deploying our new website. We'll be moving to rockport.gov as opposed to rockport.com. rockporttx.gov, sorry. It's cute, the demo's cute. It looks a little different, all the same information is there, but you'll see that in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
That's it.
Reports from council. Ward 1.
I just do ask, take some precaution near that detour, because you approach it very quickly around the corner, approaching the market intersection, and then you have that traffic from the light entering the detour area, so please use the utmost precaution. Other than that, over the weekend downtown, I got to go and mingle and enjoy downtown. It's very busy, and just been working with constituents within my area, so everything is good in Ward 1.
Great. Ward 2.
I have been curious, Chief Stevens, and maybe we can bring it back later, but the tech dot rerouting through the Live Oak School area, I no longer have kids in that area. I've not heard anything, but is everything going okay with the bypass project reroute or detour?
I was worried about that in the beginning, considering we have a bunch of wrecks there, so what's prompted them to finally build that overpass. And ironically, we're not having a lot of problems with the construction. We were having more problems before the construction began. So far, so good.
Yeah, but any complaints or for Lee about the Live Oak traffic? I driving through there on the bypass, it's nice to have traffic slowing down, and it's also nice not to have that cross traffic, so that'll be great. Other than that, I guess, Vanessa, question, we talked about the monthly budget updates are gonna start coming. Can you talk to us about how that's gonna roll out for us?
Sure. Robbie, I have a note for you here, by the way. At the second meeting at each month, he should have the previous month reconciled. And so on the dais at the second meeting will be a copy of the latest financials. Second meeting of the month, you should expect them. If they're not there, it's because something has gone wrong.
Okay, thank you. No, that's good. That way we know what to expect that. Other than that, other than the P&Z continuing to meet, and I think we're making progress there, so appreciate that. I don't have any other reports from any other committees.
Mayor and I attended the 22nd, in Vanessa, sorry, and the 22nd Annual Humane Society Banquet Gala this Friday night. Very well attended. A great event. Believe they raised, I don't know what the final number was, but a substantial amount of money for the Ramsey County Humane Society. So that was a really nice event. Thank you for the update on the GLO drainage projects. I just ask that when the contractor comes up with a solution to the problem, that we can maybe get that out to the public, or have they?
So they presented a solution. We are waiting on, I'm wrong. Urban has presented a solution to merchants, and we are waiting on an answer back.
From merchants.
Remember, merchants needs to
Correct.
pay for this.
Yeah.
Not merchants need to pay for this. They need to pay for it. So,
It's part of the bond. There's a latent defect.
there
in
is a
that.
latent defect clause, and we will absolutely work our hardest to make sure that everything is covered and the taxpayers aren't left holding the bag on it.
If when that becomes available, I'm sure we'll get questions on the delay and whatnot, but if we can,
I'll reconstitute my bi-weekly
your
email.
bi-weekly email, thank you.
It may be sparse at times, but I'll send something,
That'd be great.
just
And
so
then-
we're putting communication out.
And the other thing, Mike, on the Contra Street, there is a hump right now on 35. I don't know if Garrett has a,
They're gonna make it bigger. No.
they'll make it bigger.
The idea is to take the hump out. They're gonna
Okay.
come across 35, that hump will come out and it will smooth as it goes across.
I was just assuming it was a temporary patch because they haven't finished the
Correct.
cut, so, I believe that's all I have, Mayor, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem
I think you went to Boots on the Bay too, didn't you?
What'd I do?
Went to Boots on the Bay?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. Andrea.
Are they done? Oh, okay, I wasn't sure. I guess the only thing I want to say is, I appreciate you guys going with the tree, mitigation fund and getting those trees available so we can, put some more trees back into our community. We have our tree committee meeting tomorrow, or Thursday, sorry. And, they're looking at, doing this Arbor Day event. It's, a lot of the community is, coming together on this, so I would just appreciate everyone, if you want to come and help, volunteer, just come and join. It's going to be a great event. And I guess that's really all I have. And I apologize for not being there today. Just not feeling well and don't want to spread the germs. So I missing being there in person tonight. So thank you for including me on video.
I want to say that this is the 29th budget that I have had anything to do with the city of Rockport. And I cannot remember one of them that was fun. I don't remember having very many fun minutes while we were doing budgets. I will say that this has been just about as bad of one as I have seen. It's because we're in bad times and people are not making more money and there are issues going on, but the city has to pay their bills just like the public does. And it is very difficult to do. If someone comes in and says, I have a piece of paper I can't read the numbers on because it's a poor copy. We went through workshops, we went through planning meetings, we went through all sorts of things, and there were paper passed out every time we have a meeting. And every time we got through with a meeting, someone had said somewhere during that meeting to the city manager, see if you can find some more ways to cut money. And so things change. When we get paperwork back, it is different because the last time we looked at it, the numbers were bigger and they got moved around and changed. And I regret that it is impossible for everyone to always find the piece of paper that's absolutely right, but they are there. And I'm sorry when someone comes and says, I can't find that, or it was never released, because it was, but there is a mass of paper goes into this work. And I will say that our city manager has worked her backside off, and so has our new finance director at our direction. It was the five of us that caused the headaches for everybody. But there are reasonable questions that everyone on this council had that needed to be answered. And whether everyone else agreed, whether it was a good question or just a pain in the butt, they were questions that deserved to be asked and answers needed to be found. And our council has done a tremendous job, and I appreciate them, although I have pulled my hair out a couple of 3 times after a meeting and gone home and kicked the dog or whatever. It was the cat. But anyway, I appreciate the council. I appreciate our staff and all they have done to keep up with us when we kept giving them new directions every time it turned around. I wish more of the public would come and sit in on these meetings and see just exactly what goes on in order to conduct business for them. Because we have 10,000 citizens roughly and 6,000 voters, and sometimes we hear from 10 people. And so I would love to hear from more people. So if any of you are listening or you hear that I said this, please come to the meetings next year. And we've been saying that for a long time, since 1989 I know of. But I appreciate all of our staff. I appreciate this council. Whether we always agree or not is beside the point. We're trying to do the best we can for the people we represent. And having said that, I will read this section. We're going to go into executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. We don't need it. We're not going to do that. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Second, room adjourned. Oh, it is 7:50.